If you've played Airsoft for any length of time, you probably ran into them. Cheaters, people not calling their hits, blind fire, etc., etc. But why do they do it? Why do Airsofters cheat? In today's video essay, we talk cheating, cheaters, and what can be done to stop them. To start things off, I believe it's necessary to establish just why cheating is so harmful to the game of Airsoft. On the lesser end, it's immersion breaking. When you're excited and someone eats several BBs without calling hits, it can really take you out of the moment. Worse yet is when someone eats 3 or 4 shots only to turn and shoot you in the back. It can be infuriating, and if people get too infuriated, it can lead to, well, bad things on the field. Secondly, Airsoft already has a bit of a problem with people saying they don't call hits, and the more people that hear about it, the more it's spread around, and the more people cheat, the worse the sport looks for new potential players looking to get into Airsoft. So, why do people cheat? Well, the first reason, or general explanation, is that many people don't realize they're doing it. In fact, you're probably cheated at one point in a game and had no idea you even did it. Alright, before you mass dislike this video for accusing all of you of being a cheater, hear me out. We all cheat, whether we like to admit it or not. The fact of the matter is, BBs don't always hit with enough force or sound to even make you aware that you're being shot. Loose fabric, clothes, and facial hair can do the same thing. And this is what I believe a majority of common Airsoft cheating looks like. Non-malicious, unknowing cheating. But moving on after that, we have, well, I'm just going to call them gear hoes. Now, I love some good gear. It makes you look cool, feel all tactical, but as I demonstrated in my last Airsoft essay, it can significantly reduce BB hits and impacts, particularly in pouches and mags. Now, I understand if you need a lot of mag pouches for real caps or high caps, but come on. You don't need 2 mag pouches deep on top of a plate carrier with plates in it over the top of a giant jumpsuit. And I kid you not, I've actually watched people wear this much gear to the field. If you're wearing this much gear, you have to know it's going to make it a lot harder for you to feel your hits. Now, am I saying wearing too much gear is cheating? No. Hell not. I have a decent amount of gear myself, but when you're wearing the gear, it's usually best to assume you're at fault when in doubt. There's a lot of Airsoft players that don't do this, however. And now we get into the meat and potatoes of Airsoft cheating, and that is what I'm going to call active and knowing. Remember a few minutes ago when I called you a cheater? Well, you probably didn't feel too much as you're just watching a YouTube video, but pretend for a moment someone called you a cheater in real life. You might feel embarrassed, or maybe even ashamed. And the real reason behind that is that us humans tend to naturally feel guilty when we cheat. We like to preserve our self-image. So we tend to limit ourselves when it comes to cheating, and that results in little things in our day-to-day lives, like taking a little more time at lunch at work, or dropping out of a match early in online games as to avoid getting a loss in our online records. The problem arises when people fail to self-limit themselves, and slowly over time, small amounts of cheating get bigger and bigger until the people around them notice it and it becomes a real problem. It might start small, brushing off, say, a small shot to the outside of your hair or something, and then maybe not running all the way back to spawn before getting back in, as it's only going to take a few extra seconds. But before you know it, you're shrugging hits and not calling yourself out. The lesson here is don't assume cheating happens all at once. It starts out with little things and slowly evolves so that people are, well, doing it really badly. So why do people do it? Well, simply put, it comes down to risk versus reward. Cheating is a risk, or at least it can be if the rules are enforced. The reward is feeling superior to opponents and perhaps having more fun because you don't have to walk all the way back to that spawn. The risk? Negative reputation, and perhaps bans from the field. And for some, the risk and reward is what causes this behavior in the first place. They enjoy this sort of game. So, what can be done about Airsoft cheaters? Well, remember how earlier I mentioned that we as humans tend to try and protect our self-image? We can use that to our advantage. In a study conducted by Mazar N, see source below, researchers tasked students to flip a coin 10 times, and said students would be offered $1 for every heads a coin flip produced. Students were also tasked to do this from their own homes, where no one was observing them. From there, participants were given random instructions on some of the sheets than their counterparts. Some papers said, "Don't cheat," written at the head of the paper, whilst others said, "Don't be a cheater." The result? The "Don't cheat" papers had an average of 5.49 heads, and the "Don't be a cheater" papers scored an average of 4.88 heads. The reason for these results? Saying "don't be a cheater" goes after someone's self-image, making people not want to, well, cheat. So, should we run around calling other people cheaters? No, not necessarily. Once again, there's people that just don't know they're getting shot, and going after someone's self-image by calling them cheaters can make them super defensive and that can lead to fighting, which we definitely don't want on the field. Instead, maybe have a ref at the beginning of the match say, "Don't be a cheater." Perhaps have the rules that people read say it in bold at the top. But this isn't going to solve everything, of course. Going back to the topic of risk versus reward, you can see that you need to make the risk so high to cheat that the reward just isn't worth it. Blizzard for Overwatch perma-bans their players sometimes if they're caught cheating. Siege lets everyone know who is cheating and who got banned for it, and hell, even Fortnite is going after cheaters in some lawsuits. I believe there are a fair number of fields in the Airsoft community that let cheaters off the hook. After all, it can be scary losing business of a potential player. And who knows, that cheater might go behind the field's back and say bad things. But in the long run, that cheater is going to hurt the field's bottom line. Fields that enforce the rules are going to be noticed by the player base and are more likely to get return players of good caliber visiting them frequently, and over time it will build a community. These communities result in consistent business. So, finally, what have we learned? Not everyone that cheats means to do so. Gear can make it harder to call hits. Everyone cheats, but it's a matter of how much. People don't want to be known as a cheater because it harms their self-image, and said self-image can be a valuable tool in combating cheaters. The punishment for cheating needs to be severe to the point that it far outweighs the reward to do so, and finally, that rule enforcement can only be good for airsoft fields. Thank you all very much for watching this rather long video essay on cheating, but it was a subject that I was very passionate about and wanted to get some reliable info for people out there. So, also a little bit of news here. I've switched off all my Airsoft content from the DI Director's channel onto the Wild Waves Airsoft channel, so that's where all my new Airsoft videos are going to be located and uploaded from now on. So go subscribe there if you haven't done so already. In the meantime, visual effects related stuff is going to be popping up on the DI Director's channels as well still. And finally, what do you guys think? I know this is kind of a topic a lot of Airsofters are very interested in voicing their opinions on, so I'd love to hear from all you guys down below. Finally, remember to have a great day, don't be a cheater, and that's all, folks.